Welcome to the third episode of the Presales Coffee Break, a weekly series where I'm sharing with you my experiences as a presales consultant, but also my worst fuck up to stop you from doing the exact same mistakes. In this video, I'd like to share with you my favorite technique to manage objections during demonstrations, but also to shift your mindset from acknowledging them as a positive buying signal rather than a threat. And to be fair with you, it took me quite some time to understand that you don't have to be afraid of objections. I was mostly afraid of looking like a fool, not knowing the correct answer and how to overcome them. But let me tell you one thing, objections are a positive buying signal, because they are the very best sign that your audience is actively processing the information you're sharing with them, triggering a thought process in their brain. Just ask yourself what client you're more likely to close. The one that is leaning back during a demonstration, not engaging at all, or the one that is highly engaged, asking you tough questions. The first one might be easier to demo to because you can pretty much do your own thing. But in all honesty, everything you say goes in one ear and out the other. Whereas the tough guy is actively processing the information you're sharing with them, trying to figure out how this might apply to their job. You need to understand that selling new enterprise software is a change process. You have to stop people from doing what they are doing and probably from what they have been doing for the past decade. But selling change is difficult and you need to trigger a thought process and fight through some resistance first. But only if your client is highly engaged during a demonstration, weighing the pros and cons of your solution, they are eventually opening up for change. Whereas the easygoing guy is probably thinking about his favorite Ninja Turtle, but not about changing behaviors. And this is the counterintuitive thing about software demos. The ones that feel great are not necessarily the ones you're going to close because you're missing this kind of trigger and thought process. Whereas the tough ones are actually your chance to shine and gain your client's trust and attention. And even if you don't know the response to an objection, just be honest with them and make sure to follow up with an adequate response. Personally, I've never been blamed for not knowing an answer and being honest with that, but I've been blamed for being a know-it-all and they instantly pick things up with their bullshit detector. But let's finally get to the practical part of this video and share with you my favorite technique to handle objections during demonstrations. It's a modification of the feel, felt, found approach that has been introduced back in the 60s. And some of you might say now, that's old hat and has already been outdated 20 years ago. And I partially agree with you, there are downsides. But in my experience and in my opinion, this approach has been used mostly in direct-to-consumer scenarios as a closing technique. For example, when the client was saying that they have to think about the price or talk to their spouse first before making the final decision. And this is not the case for software demonstrations because we are not yet trying to close our clients. But feel, felt, found works nicely on so many levels if you apply it correctly for your demo and has become one of my favorite tools. Plus, it's just super handy and easy to apply. So the moment you receive an objection, you need to signal to your client that you understand how they feel. You feel with them. This builds empathy and rapport and shows your client that you are listening to them and that you acknowledge their objection. Secondly, you need to tell them that they are not alone, that you know other clients who had the exact same feelings and that this is a super common thought. This part of the technique is all about establishing social proof. And last but not least, you need to tell them how you and your reference client had found the solution to overcome the exact same challenge. This is the basic triad of the feel, felt, found approach, and it works especially well during software demos because you do not just establish rapport, you also create the opportunity to tell a story, back it up with facts and customer references, and also leverage the power of social proof. So let's quickly recap the three elements here. Number one, you got to acknowledge the objection and tell your client that you can feel with them. Secondly, you need to establish social proof by telling them that they are not alone with their problem. And finally, number three, found, you provide a solution by telling them a customer reference story where you have overcome the exact challenge. But we need to add some little details to make this technique even more effective and applicable for software demos. As a general rule of thumb, we always need to make sure that we fully understand the intention behind our client's objection. Because often, The first objection is nothing but a smokescreen, and our dear clients are hiding their real reason for the question. So it's your responsibility to dig deeper and explore the underlying concern. And you could do so by asking clarification questions like, could you please elaborate a little bit further on this so I can fully understand your thinking? Or by simply rephrasing their question and trying to get another wording out of their mouth. But isolating objections is a different topic for maybe another video. But I just want to raise the awareness that very often, after you have responded to the first objection, you might hear a second one, which is getting closer to the actual cause. I already mentioned that this technique has been used for decades and therefore could easily be recognized by experienced buyers. And because it's so easy to apply, I would recommend to you not to use the exact terms feel, felt, found and use other phrases instead, like I can understand, this resonates. To other native speakers, please back me up here. And please don't overdo it. You cannot handle every single objection with the same formula. After the second time the latest, your client will get the impression that they are talking to a monkey. I like monkeys, but I wouldn't necessarily buy enterprise software from one. But before coming to the end of this video, I would like to make one last point. I want you to provide genuine responses using this methodology. I want you to provide actual and relevant customer references. Don't make things up. Ideally, you have a reference client that is available to support your case if your client objection is a real one. And as soon as you start telling fairy tales and you cannot back it up, your client's bullshit detector will pick up on that 9 out of 10 times. And you're really wasting a great opportunity to bond with your client and establish yourself as their trusted authority. To summarize this video, objections are good. You don't have to be afraid of them. They are positive buying signals, and you need to see them as your chance to empathize with your client, leverage social proof, and introduce a customer success story. Every single objection is your best opportunity to overcome your client's resistance and trigger that change and thought process that will ultimately lead to a new client. If you don't want to miss any of the future Presales Coffee Break episodes, please make sure to follow the hashtag below. And if you're a pro, let me know which other objection handling technique I have used in this video. Thank you very much for listening and watching. Take care and see you again next week. Bye bye.